And there you go.
All right. Thank you so much. And I really do appreciate the flexibility with the date change. Thank you, everyone. So this is Churchill Trip Report, Part 2. And just before I get started, I'm going to just introduce myself. I'm Colleen Reilly, and I'm on the OFO board. I've been on the board for a few years now. Recently, I became secretary to the board. I also run a birding group called the Pipits that's been running since 2019. It's a wonderful group, and the people are fabulous. And sometimes we find birds. Yeah, when I was little, my mom and dad did their field work in the far north of Canada, and that's where the bug got me. I can't get enough of the North Country. The words of Robert Service call to me all the time. And one of the places that I always wanted to explore, I forgot to change the screen, sorry. One of the places I always wanted to explore was Churchill. Last summer, I was fortunate enough to be able to make a trip up to Churchill for 7 nights. Jude here in the picture and I put the trip together. It was a bit of work, but it meant we got to get our boots on the ground and cover everything that we wanted to see and experience. In terms of organizing the trip, the most important book, I think, was A Birder's Guide to Churchill, which I believe is an ABA guide. It was instrumental in telling us where to go and what birds to look for. And then in terms of identifying the plant life we encountered, there was several books, Wildflowers of Churchill and the Hudson Bay region, Common Plants of Nunavut, and a book called Wildflowers of Manitoba. If you don't put the two words in separately, wildflowers, you will not find it on Google. I spent an hour putting it in as one word today. And of course, iNaturalist. And then the website for Arctic Dawn, the Journals of Samuel Hearn, is fascinating. It's a fascinating read. Yeah, it gives a very different insight into the history. And then in terms of providers and tour operators, this is our list, and I'm happy to send this out if anyone's interested in putting a trip together for themselves. We may have some of the providers here tonight. I told them to put it in the chat, but I can't see the chat. So feel free to let me know, Angie. I don't know why I can't see the chat at all.
Okay, we do have actually a question in the chat right now that you might want to address. I have to find it
Sure.
again though. I had it there a minute ago, and now it's gone. There we go. Are these books and resources digital, online, Indigo, or Amazon? Where access them?
Yeah, so have a look at Amazon. I think that's where I got them. Um, the one that was out of print, the ABA guide, uh, I think I got that from a reseller through Amazon. I apologize for supporting a big box. Yeah. So before I get started with the trip report, I just wanted to share a few details about the Indigenous history of Churchill first. One of the guides who took us out, Rhonda, she worked for both North Star Tours and Sea North, and she gave us some insight into the Indigenous heritage of the area, which caused me to do some more research, and it was tragic. The area had been inhabited since before European contact, obviously, and European contact happened in the 1600s. Colonization was disastrous for the Indigenous folk. There wasn't a lot of information available in Churchill Churchill itself on this, but this book called Night Spirits was written to share the stories of the people's experience. And it's available through the University of Manitoba Press. In my previous presentation, I covered the first 3 days of our trip. Tonight, I'm going to go through the last 5 days in a rush, June 30th to July 4th. Relax, get comfortable, and get ready for a visual journey through an incredible place. This presentation is being recorded and will be available on the OFO YouTube channel, so feel free to have a look there if you miss anything tonight. And I'm happy to send out the resource pages. Here's a map of the area. Jordy and I actually rented a truck for the whole time. We went out with tour operators some of the days, and some days we went out on our own, not getting far from the truck because polar bears were around. So places to note on the map are Sloop Cove and Prince of Wales Fort on the left side of the Churchill River, and Cape Mary, Churchill itself, Launch Road, Bird Cove, the Rocket Range, and the Churchill Northern Studies Center off to the right. And then down the road from that, the Twin Lakes Road, that went through a very wet area that I think consists of a fen or a bog. And then on the last day of our trip, the group went out in the tundra buggy with out towards Wapusk National Park, and we didn't get to go there, so we're gonna have to go back. One of the interesting places that I mentioned was the Churchill Northern Studies Center, and it's located on a former rocket research range, which was sporadically in operation for military and research purposes, and later as a proposed spaceport that had one flight. So that was in operation from 1954 until the late 1990s. And just of note, the Churchill Northern Studies Center does offer accommodations to folks that are visiting, and they also have tours. It's worth checking out. And that's an actual rocket. So on to the tour. On the morning of June 30th, we went out with North Star Tours with our guide, Rhonda Reed. And then in the afternoon, we went up to explore the fort with Custom Churchill. And then later in the afternoon, we met up with North Star Tours again. So anyone want to take a guess at which turn we're looking at here? Feel free to use the chat. And Angie will tell me what people are guessing.
Well, it's been narrowed down to a common or an Arctic.
Okay.
Susan says it's an Arctic. I think it's an Arctic.
Okay.
But
Silver wings.
Ken thinks it's an Arctic.
It is indeed an Arctic. Now, what kind of fish does it have?
A delicious one.
Yum, yum. I don't know.
A
George
dead
Coker,
one.
where are you?
Linda says it's a dead fish.
Indeed it is. Or will be.
Oh, look at that tail.
Wow.
And that bird.
So feel free to throw identifications of the plants into the chat as well. This is a bit of an interactive presentation. So this here is a kind of wintergreen. It's called bog wintergreen. It's the only one I saw. And this is boreal sweet vetch with a young fireweed growing on the front right side of it. And it grew all over. It covered vast stretches of ground. It was spectacular. And this is an example of one of the ponds that we saw. What kind of duck do we have? Anyone?
It's a bufflehead. Barry's got it.
Yeah.
It's a bufflehead.
How about this sparrow?
Barry says it's a song. Someone says it's a fox. Someone says it's a tree. I'm going with fox.
You've got it. It was singing its
Wanna
heart out.
explain why it's a fox?
Well, it's got that rufous or reddish color to it. It's not the best example in the photographs. It was far away, but it had chevrons on its chest, the little arrow-shaped markings. Also the gray head. I'm sure there's more characteristics, but those are the ones that I would have gone with.
I've not been to Churchill, but we were in Webequie in sort of up north Ontario, and fox sparrows were singing everywhere.
They're so beautiful.
Everywhere they were singing.
Oh yeah.
You just don't get them down here like that.
No.
This is pulled out of Birds of the World because I'm going to share my confusion with you guys. So the top bird is a greater yellow legs. The photo on the left was Birds of the World, their example of a breeding adult. On the right is also a breeding adult, greater yellow legs. And you can see the strong barring and the slight upturn of the bill tip. The bird on the bottom is a lesser yellow legs. Now, of note, only lesser yellow legs breed in Churchill area, according to Birds of the World. So what's that? I'm going to read a quote from the Manitoba Breeding Bird Atlas. There's minimal evidence of nesting around Churchill, but there is a decided influx of adults to local ponds in late June. This is with regards to greater yellow legs. After late June, the species becomes a fairly common fall migrant. So does this look like a greater or a lesser? These ones, not this. How about this one? Are they both what?
Are they both the same species?
Great question. This is where the greater yellow legs breed. You can see the coast of Hudson's Bay. They're not along it up in Manitoba. What's that one? Honestly, these are likely lesser yellow legs, all of them. They're just not barred enough to be greater. But I sent the pictures to a couple of experts and the jury's out. So it was suggested that they probably are lesser, but there's a reason why people like G and Iron stand out as experts. These birds are hard. Shorebirds are brutal. And I just wanted to mention that I have a mediocre birder t-shirt and I'm happy to get one for you guys. This one's a bit easier. Beautiful green winged teals. And here we've got a field of Labrador tea in flower. This is Lapland azalea. Just spectacular. Here's another view. Okay, I've got another sparrow for you. Who do we have? Anyone have a guess?
I'm going to guess Lincoln's. Barry says Lincoln's. Everybody, yeah. I
Yeah,
think most
you
people
got it.
agree.
Handsome
Yeah, on a
fella.
tamarack tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On a tamarack. That's right. So here's another fun one. This is from All About Birds, showing a long-billed dowitcher on the left and a short-billed dowitcher on the right. The short-billed is, of course, the Hendersoni subspecies, which looks very much like the long-billed dowitcher. There's some subtle differences. The long-billed is more brownish on the back, has an undertail that's orange, and barring on the sides is sparser and finer than that of what you see on a short-billed. So have a good look there. You ready? Okay, what's that? I've got another shot of a different bird, but I think they're the same. Is anyone guessing?
Barry's guessing long.
Okay.
Jack is guessing short.
Okay, see what I
Barry says
mean?
maybe short. Yeah.
Anyone want a t-shirt?
Yeah, me. Sometimes you just have to say, yeah, it's a dowager, and leave it at that.
It's a dowitcher. So here we've got the maps of the breeding ranges. Short-billed has a very small area on the Hudson Bay coast around Churchill. Long-billed is way up in the high Arctic. So we were looking at short-billed that looked very much like long-billed. Thank you, nature. This one's an easier bird, a lovely long-tailed duck. And what are these? Big enough to be birds. The mosquitoes. I'm sure people were wondering, how were the mosquitoes in Churchill? Well, they weren't bad until we got into the interior, and then we were glad to have our bug shirts with us. And this nest, I was hoping it was a Bonaparte gull's nest, which are a gull that nest in spruce trees, interestingly enough. But it's a big nest. Unfortunately, it was probably a raven's nest. We didn't find any nesting Bonapartes. And here we've got some northern shoveler ducks in flight. Beautiful birds. And I don't know if you guys can see the bird in this picture, but if you can, throw it in the chat. What do you think we have? Here's another
Northern
view.
water thrush. Northern water thrush.
Okay,
3 votes for northern water thrush.
you got it.
4. Yep.
That's it.
Where is
It
it?
was working its way down a stream. I don't know how we saw it. They hide so well with their camouflage. And I've got another one for you here. What do we have in this picture? Note the yellow undertail coverts.
Orange crowned warbler. Orange crown, 2 votes. 3 because I was
Okay.
thinking that.
Anyone else think anything different? This is a contrast between my photo and Birds of the World of a female
Pine warbler.
Tennessee warbler.
Was it a
Pine
female
warbler?
Tennessee?
No, my photo's down on the right.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to stop for a second on the birds For the non-birders, I bet you think we're absolutely nuts because we
Oh,
drive
we are.
ourselves crazy. Right. These birds look almost exactly the same. And when they're in the wild, they're flitting around and you see maybe part of a rump, part of the chest. That's why I take pictures because otherwise, some of these, I just don't know how people ID them. But indeed, what we had here was an orange crowned.
But at
Noted.
least in the wild, you have other cues. You have the habitat, you have sounds,
Yes.
maybe behaviors. Yeah.
Yep. And usually I have people that know birds better.
Ah,
And
Sorry about that. This is the breeding range for the orange crown. So we were well within it. And I should have done the Tennessee. I'm not sure what the Tennessee breeding range is. And this was unexpected. In the afternoon of day 4, we went for a tour of the fort. Bryden took us along the shore before we went over to the fort, and we found this polar bear mama and cub. Um, I think Jude, one of the members of our party, actually photographed this same mom with 2 cubs. So that gives you an idea of how well they hide in the rocks, which is why we never went far from our truck without a gun. You can see the birds in the view. The bears were mobbed by Arctic terns, but aren't they adorable? Like they just look like you could go up and give them a snuggle. And while we were there, they relaxed and lay down. Really, really special. And that's a view of the fort. It was difficult to get a tour in June because they weren't expecting the ice to be off the river so early. And that's probably why we saw polar bears because they were stranded due to the ice leaving before expected. This is the landscape around the fort. You'll later see we go to Cape Mary and it's quite different. It's very rocky, rolling rock. But here it was all very small rocks. So the Prince of Wales Fort started construction in 1733 and it took 40 years almost. It didn't finish until 1771. It was built by the English for the Hudson's Bay Company and also as a fort to protect the area. It was partially destroyed when the French took over, destroyed it, but it was rebuilt again by Samuel Hearne. And interestingly, the fort had these wooden structures on every corner, which I think is a testament to the harshness of the environment, which just makes it so incredibly amazing that things thrive there the way they do. This is an inscription by Henry Robinson, who I couldn't find any information on, so we'll never know what his significance was to the fort. Later, our travels took us to an area called Sloop Cove, and there we'll see many inscriptions on the rocks, including one by Samuel Hearne. I don't know where this door went, but I thought it was very, very interesting. And that's a view of the barracks, and you can see in the background there's a row of cannons. And there's another view with the cannons. This is inside the entrance door. It was quite a fort. And apparently these cannons are the original cannons from the 1700s. On the right, you can see a view of Hudson's Bay. And there's another shot of the cannons. So that's looking out past a cannon at Hudson's Bay, and the polar bears that we saw were in the rocks out there. I'm going to segue back into nature now and leave the fort behind. After we visited the fort on day 4, we went out with Rhonda Reed and North Star Tours for the rest of the afternoon. And here's some of the stuff we found. This is a clump of Rop's paintbrush, and it shows quite a few of the actual flowers. Can anyone put in the chat what the color of the flowers were? Not sure if that's was or were. Color of the flowers.
Lucas says magenta.
Okay. Any other
I'm going to guess
guesses?
this is a trick question, I'm guessing. Trick question.
It's a trick question.
I thought so.
You're on to
Violet.
me.
Vicky says violet. I'm going to guess the flowers themselves are probably green. Yep. Jordy says green. Yeah. Is that the flower?
Cheating.
Teeny tiny?
So that's the flower. Yeah. It's a small yellowish green colored flower hidden inside the large, showy, fan-shaped, pink-colored bracts, which are actually leaves, like modified leaves of the plant. Another thing about the plant is that it's a partially parasitic plant. Its roots grow until they touch the roots of other plants, typically grasses, and then they penetrate those roots to obtain a portion of their nutrients. So you can't transplant them.
No. How tall are those plants? It's hard to tell in the picture.
They're, maybe a foot.
Okay.
You can see the actual flowers in this one too. This is the same kind of plant. It's just like a color variation, I think. And there's a merganser. I don't know if anyone wants to take a guess as to which one.
Lucas says red-breasted.
Yes.
Is it? I was going to guess common, but look at it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Not the best picture, and fortunately it was far away. But this one was much closer. There we've got a pine grosbeak, a lovely male. And does everyone know oh, look at the puppy. Does everyone know what kind of bird this is?
That is one of the ones that eats all the Niger seed in my yard.
Lovely. So what's it called?
It's a redpoll. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a redpoll. According to the IOC, this is one of the birds where the nomenclature changed, and it is no longer called a common redpoll or a lesser or a hoary. I'm curious who still wants to see hoary redpolls. I do. Back to the flowers. On the left is a small northern bog orchid, and they're small. They're maybe 5 or 6 inches tall, delicate and beautiful. And then we've got 2 different color variations on woolly lousewort on the right. And these were tundra swans. White-crowned sparrows were very common. Just lovely. And the yellow warbler wraps up our day 4. On day 5, we went out with Bryden again with custom Churchill tours, and he took us to Cape Mary. This was kind of an impromptu tour, and we were very, very grateful that he was able to show us because, of course, we couldn't go on our own without having a bear guard. This is the Churchill River shoreline. You can see the gray rock. It's called Metagraywacke or Gray Metawacke. I think it's Metagraywacke. Churchill quartzite. And these are spruce trees that were all over the area, and you can see they're all one-sided, which is a testament to the north wind. And Hudson's Bay in the background, full of mist. We weren't alone at Cape Mary. There was other people there, and everyone carried their gun. It's a very, very unusual experience to be up there and see guns everywhere. And there's Bryden from Custom Churchill Tours. And there, off in the distance, you can barely see the fort. This is a cannon battery, which is a stone wall that was used to protect the cannons from enemy fire. And this was intended to guard the river and the river mouth and protect the fort. Notice the rocks here, they're swooping in waves. Very different from the scenery that we saw around the fort.
So we have a question here.
Sure.
How often do the guides actually have to shoot bears? Or shoot at bears, at least?
I think that that's a last resort. So they'll make noise. You travel in a group, so the bears see you as a larger grouping, so they're not as likely to advance. And they won't shoot at the bears directly. They'll shoot, if they don't have noisemakers, they'll shoot near the bear, but not directly at it. And I don't think the bears are shot frequently. Certainly not when we were there. This talks about the second European expedition to ever reach Hudson's Bay West Shore. This was a man named Jens Monk. He came over with a crew of about 60 men in 1619, and they overwintered at the current fort location. Unfortunately, they weren't prepared for the winters, and out of 60 men, there was 2 men and Monk left to go back to Europe. The Hudson's Bay Company attempted to set up a post in a whale fishery in 1689. This wasn't permanently in place. The first wooden fort was built in 1717 by James Knight. And as you saw, the fort construction started in 1733. It was partially destroyed by the French, and Samuel Hearne was involved in the rebuilding of the fort and the establishment of Fort Churchill on Knight's original site. The landscape around Cape Mary was gorgeous. And here you've got the remains of a powder magazine from 1744, which still has the original limestone mortar.
Colleen, do you know how long it was occupied for?
I do not.
No.
I know that Churchill originally was on that side of the river and was later moved
I think
to its current
I
location.
think we were I think we were told that it took much longer to build the fort than they actually occupied the fort. And when was it the French or that when the French came, they basically just gave up the fort without firing a shot.
Yeah, there's some I think there's something about that in the journals. Yeah. Okay, who can tell me what that bird is? I've sent it to experts and they told me the picture was too bad. Any
Yep.
guesses?
Is it a robin?
Looks like a robin. There was robins everywhere. I don't know why robins go up there to nest when they don't have to go that far, but
Is because they
it
can't. Is it
also looks kind of like a pipit.
yeah, that was another guess. Whittle ptarmigan?
No.
Rock up there. Maybe.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I moved on.
We probably don't know what it is. Do you know what it
No,
is?
we'll never know.
We'll never know.
I think it's a
Oh,
robin,
yeah.
but thanks for guessing.
What we saw in Greenland.
Oh, what did we see in Greenland? Shoot, we'll get back to you on that.
Okay. So there you've got a better view of the fort. Our trip was pretty busy, but there were small moments of discovery and wonder through the whole entire thing. And I took little alone breaks while exploring with the group to get centered and be mindful of my connection to myself and to nature. But of course, I never got too far as the bear guards were very alert to people not following closely with the group, which was a good idea to stay together. The landscape around Cape Mary called for closer looks. There was lichen proliferating on the rocks, and around it was life everywhere. Does anyone know what plants proliferated in this scene?
You told us this one last time, but I forget.
There's
Willow?
dryas.
Dryas,
Yeah, dryas or mountain avens and Canada buffalo berry.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like willow, but it's buffalo berry. There's another shot of the lake and then I was really excited to find this. Any guesses? Black crowberry. And there you've got the buffalo berry again. I loved how it was climbing up the rock. And this lichen was all over. It was just gorgeous sunburst lichen. After our journey through Cape Mary, Jordy and I went out exploring in the truck. Gave us a chance to get closer to some of the places that we just passed through. You can see it's still very misty in the distance. I loved how the mist was rising off the water here. Does anyone see anything unusual in this picture? Jordy almost stepped on it.
is that a groundhog?
Maybe.
A bear? A beaver? Looks like a bear. Oh, look at.
So cute. I had a long lens. I didn't get close to it. It's a baby Arctic hare,
Oh,
also
wow.
called a leveret.
Leveret. Oh.
Yeah, look at the feet on that, eh?
Oh.
So this little leveret was living on its own pretty much, and its mom was only coming to it around every 18 hours for it to nurse, which I think is it's the way they live. I think it's so sad that it's alone all the time and vulnerable, but they do well. So I guess it's a good strategy. And it didn't move while we were there. We weren't there long, but it didn't budge. So it stayed camouflaged. And there's the SS Ithaca. In our previous presentation, we showed how we actually hiked out to that wreck at low tide. It's unbelievable how different it is when the tide's in. And there you've got some plants from really different habitats. The one on the left is marsh fleawort, and it's surrounded by, I think that's what it's called, surrounded by sea sandwort, and that's along the ocean shoreline. And then on the right, you've got black spruce, again showing the effect of the north winds and the tundra and lowlands beyond it. But not everything was unfamiliar to us. There was Canada geese everywhere with babies. On our way to the next stop, we were heading to the Churchill River estuary with custom Churchill tours, and we saw this Hudsonian godwit. Beautiful bird by itself. And this is the shoreline, shows the human influence right around Churchill. This is the grain elevator that was built when the railway was completed. So I think it was built around the Second World War time or shortly thereafter. And this is the view of the shoreline along the estuary, and you can see how impressive the Churchill quartzite is here. Also called Meta Wacky, and this is for my dad. A little bit of geology for you. The beautiful gray rock that you see in the photographs of polar bears that people know formed initially as a sedimentary rock. It was deposited by flowing water in areas where the flow was slow. And through the pressure and heat, as it was weighted down by more and more sedimentary rock, over vast amounts of time, the grains of sediment welded together, metamorphosing into what is now known as Churchill quartzite or metagraywacke. And when we were in the estuary, we were surrounded by thousands of belugas. You can see two different sizes here. That's a mama and a baby. And I don't know if anyone remembers the story Baby Beluga. There's a song. There he is, a smile on his face. He's in the sunlight beside his mama. Life is good. And there's a whole pack of them surrounding us. They come into the relatively warmer waters of the estuary to feed, molt, and rest. And apparently they molt by scraping against the pebbles on the bottom. There's another tail. So what birds do we have here? Any guesses?
Long-tailed duck.
Yes. And how about these?
Well, they're, looks like you have some do you have eiders? No.
Yes.
Scoters too. Eiders or scoters? Common eiders. Yeah,
Common eiders.
look at that. Yep.
Very handsome. And what's in these pictures? If you're in Hamilton area, you get to stand in horrible weather all day long, waiting to see a little dot flying along the horizon, chasing gulls.
That's
This
your
is a
parasitic.
parasitic Jaeger, dark
Yeah.
morph and light morph.
Ken's wondering if
And
the
that's a
previous.
wrap.
That's a wrap.
What's that?
Ken was wondering the mystery bird standing on the building if it might be a northern wheatear.
I wondered the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jordy said.
we'll say it was.
Okay, let's.
National
Add that to the list.
Nat Geo doesn't seem to have it breeding in that area. That's the only trouble.
That's a
Oh.
problem. Yeah.
That-
Well, it
No
got
one's
blown off
breeding.
course.
On the other side,
Yeah,
both
it's a rarity.
No, but yeah, it's a rarity. There you go. Oh, good quote.
That's a wrap on day 5. Day 6, we went out again with North Star Tours and Rhonda. And then in the afternoon, we went with Sea North Tours to explore Sloop Cove and hike to the Prince of Wales Fort, again with Rhonda. These signs were, I wouldn't say all over, but they certainly were seen more than once. Warning of explosives in the area. I have a note that my internet connection's unstable, so let me know if I freeze. Does anyone see the bird here? What have I got?
American golden plover?
Yes,
2 people guessed that.
beauty.
Good job.
Does anyone know what else breeds in this area that we've already seen? Parasitic Jaegers.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a pair.
Did they nest on the ground?
They do, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Who's this?
Oh,
In the tamarack tree.
in the tamarack tree. That's your tree sparrow.
I'm going
Isn't it?
with, well, we went with chipping sparrow. What makes you think
Oh.
tree sparrow?
I don't know. I didn't really think about it at all. I just said, oh, but yeah, it could be a chipping sparrow. I can't really see enough
You
detail.
can't get a good view from this angle. No.
Barry McKay says chipping because it's got a white eyebrow. Somebody said something about the bill color. Ooh.
Bill color?
What was it singing?
Great question.
Or was it singing?
I don't recall, but we documented it as a chipping.
Okay.
This plant's called common butterwort. It's an insectivorous plant that you find in wet areas like bogs, and its leaves have glands that secrete a sticky substance and trap insects and then release enzymes to digest the insects. And that's a way for the plant to access a source of nitrogen as they grow in an area that's typically low in nitrogen. They're very small, but they're quite beautiful. And there we've got a herring gull with little babies. There's a few more babies. And then we've got some loons, Pacific loons. So beautiful. And this, I didn't catch it when it was in flight, but this parasitic Jaeger chased down some gulls and did what parasitic Jaegers do, which is chase the gulls until they throw up their food and then take their food. Yum, yum. And that's another baby. Any guesses on what kind? It's a sandhill crane. Little cutie pie.
Yeah.
And yet another sparrow. You guys know this one.
Savannah.
Jordy's giving me a sign. Yeah, it's Savannah. I don't know what the sign means. Maybe you can put it in the chat. In the afternoon, we went to Sloop Cove by Zodiac. This is the beach. And that's the view inland. There were relics of the earlier times here. The sloops were ships that came carrying supplies and mail, and they overwintered in the cove, if you can imagine, as early as the 1600s. The men left their memories here: sailors, harpooners, shipwrights, carpenters, shipmates, captains, laborers, and a servant, apparently. But the most well-known name was Samuel Hearne, who I'm getting to. I just find it unbelievable that these are from the 1700s. And there it is. So I traced Samuel Hearne's inscription with my finger, and I felt like he shook his hand through the past. It was cool. Samuel Hearne was 22 years old when he carved his name. So he was basically a baby. And you can read more about his experience there in Arctic Dawn, The Journeys of Samuel Hearne. It's available on the internet. This is looking back towards Sloop Cove. Once we spent our time in reflection at the site of the so-called graffiti, that's what they call it, the graffiti, these historic inscriptions, we started our hike towards the Prince of Wales fort. As we went along the shoreline, we passed a tern colony. And so we were holding sticks above our heads because the terns attacked the highest point, and attack they did. They were quite agitated, so we went by as quick as we could. And of course, there was plants everywhere. It was hard to follow. Like I needed to stay with the group. I think we just had one bear guard with us, but we had to stick together as a group to keep safe.
When the
So
terns
I got
were
pictures in passing.
sorry, yeah, when the terns were
No, go
attacking
ahead.
you, Lucas is wondering how, like, did it hurt? Were they really
Um,
attacking? Like, did they hit?
they were coming in pretty close to the sticks. Hey, Jordy. There was one, the bear guard was closer inland than we were, and they were really going after him, like coming quite close to his head.
We were
Wow.
we were
George,
down on the shore, and far to the left outside of the picture is where the actual colony is. And because it's higher ground, the bear guard was walking through there. So he was getting pummeled quite a bit, and they weren't really getting too close to us. They didn't like us there, but
yeah, they were definitely agitated. This is alpine bearberry. And arrow-leaved butterbur. And I thought the rocks had really interesting fracture marks in them, like they were all sort of in crystalline formation. This lichen is called concentric ring lichen. Cut leaf anemone. This was growing tall in a protected area right up against the rocks. And this is the grave of the assistant surgeon Flood, who served as a traveling surgeon going from post to post administering medical aid. The story that I read talked about how he loved the rigors of the Arctic life and he enjoyed driving dog sled teams. He died from exposure while on duty. He was enlisted July 1st and he died in November, so he wasn't there long. Jordy, do you remember the story more? There was something about the dog that was with him.
yeah, he had a dog, and the dog wandered off, and he went looking for the dog and died, and the dog came back to the group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sad. So there's the fort. You can see that his grave overlooks it. It's a lonely place. This is lingonberry on the left and marsh Labrador tea on the right. And of course, prickly saxifrage was growing everywhere in all the cracks. So the view on the left is looking towards the fort, and the view on the right is looking away. It's just vast. And this is alpine azalea. We missed the flowering. You can see there's little shriveled flower still on the plant. And our guide, Rhonda, had remembered that there was Arctic harebell, and she was able to re-find it for us. You can see on the right, there's a seed pod as the seeds start to form, it actually shifts and starts to point upright. This is an oxen cart track. They used oxen to pull their carts loaded down with rocks. And the rocks for the fort were gathered from these areas. It would have been a huge effort to build that fort. On the left, you can see there was wolf tracks in the sand, and I think a striped emerald dragonfly. The butterflies and dragonflies were just starting to emerge on our trip. And someone already named the next bird. Later, after we returned to the Churchill side of the river, this handsome fellow walked right up to us. Did anyone guess Willa Ptarmigan? That brings us to the end of day 6. The next day, Jordy and I spent mostly on our own, exploring the landscape on a large scale as well as on a minute scale, and just kind of soaking it all in. It was a chance for us to focus on scenery and get closer looks at things that we had gone by quickly. You can see drawing a blank on the purple flowers now, but they were everywhere. The rocks were incredible. And it gave us a chance to stop in the driveway of the Northern Studies Research Center and look at the plants. They were everywhere. This is Arctic catchfly, which is, I think, related to bladder campion, which we have here. Barren ground willow on the top left, bog rosemary on the top right, creeping sandwort down in the bottom right, limestone willow, I think, and a butterfly. I think it's a Perseus dusky wing. I'm happy to be corrected if anyone wants to correct me on that one. And this is marsh grass of Parnassus on the left. We also saw Kotzebue grass of Parnassus, but my photo did not turn out. And again, we've got small northern bog orchid on the right. We got up close and personal to this Bonaparte skull. And I can't say it was thrilled. And we also found Hudsonian godwits traveling in large flocks. And then we found the parasitic Jaegers in the field again, and I'm pretty sure this is one nesting. We couldn't get closer, so this was taken from quite a distance. We didn't have a bear guard with us that day. I had no idea they nested on the ground. And you can't go to Churchill and not notice all the murals. And there's our group. That brings our trip almost to a close. On the morning of our final day before we flew out, we went kayaking with the belugas. Now, first, I want to point out in the lower right corner, Jordy's vest. That's right, it's dragging in the water, salt water. His phone was in that pocket. Sorry, Jordy. And also, some of the people in the kayaks were very brave and they got photographs of the belugas in the water, like by putting their cameras underwater. I was in a green kayak, and belugas apparently like the color green. So they were coming up behind me and pushing my kayak around as I was paddling. And the only way I could get them to stop was to paddle backwards. Now, I have a phobia about going into water like this. Like, I don't want to go swimming with belugas. I just don't. It terrifies me. And every time they hit my kayak, it unbalanced me. It was very frightening. So I ended up leaving early. But to leave, I was trying to get to the Zodiac boat to tell them I need to leave. But I couldn't paddle forward because every time I paddled forward, the belugas came and pushed my kayak. So no one told us this before we went kayaking with them. So I'm just doing a public service announcement that this is going to happen if you go kayaking with the belugas. Be prepared. And finally, Jude found these orchids right in town behind a store along an abandoned railway line, right in the center of town. These are Franklin's lady slipper orchids, and they're small. You can see in front of the one on the left, there's Dryas or Mountain Avens, which is only a couple inches tall, really, 2 or 3. So these were fairly small orchids, but not tiny like the other orchids that we'd seen. And they're just spectacular. So that concludes our time in Churchill, and it also brings my presentation to a close. I hope this encourages some of you to plan a trip to Churchill. It truly is a place of wonder. Thanks to Angie for the wonderful opportunity to share these memories with you, and to everyone who came and watched. Until next time, farewell, Churchill.
Thank you, Colleen. Wow. I want to go. Ken, can we go?
It's beautiful. We have to.
Love it.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. So for those of you who are still with us tonight, our next meeting is March 4th, first Wednesday in March. And we have, I think, 5 different presenters talking about some of the lesser traveled birding destinations in Ontario that you may or may not know about that you might want to go. Any questions for Colleen? I think when questions came up in the chat throughout, Colleen, I think I asked them for you.
Yeah, I'm just scanning it now. I don't know why I couldn't see it.
Oh, Lucas is asking when you went. Well, it was this year in June.
Yeah, at the end
Late
of June, early July. We left
Yeah.
on July 4th. Did we see much ship traffic? No. No.
And you drove there? Did you say
No,
that
we flew.
you rented a car there?
We rented a truck there. You can
Okay.
go and ship your vehicle in by train. That's not uncommon, I think. Hey, Phyllis. Yay. Mom and Dad, thanks for coming. Thank you, everyone. This was really fun. I'm so grateful that I got to share it with so many of you.
Oh, thank you. Fantastic.
Nice work.
Yeah, I love it. I love hearing the stories and the pictures.
Feel free to send me questions by email if you need to.
It was
Always
fun.
happy to talk
It was
about
fun
it.
being allowed to guess the birds and plants and stuff too. That was fun.
Barry knows every bird on Earth, I think.
I
No,
think
What's that,
so.
Barry?
not at all. But I was up there 20, 25 years ago, and it was interesting because all we saw were long-tailed Jaegers. I don't recall any parasitic Jaegers. So
Interesting.
yeah, I suspect there's been some sort of change because the longtails were everywhere, like very common.
I needed them.
So
We didn't see any long-tailed Jaegers.
the reason we were up there is because of the big panic over the overabundance, which I did not agree was a problem, of snow geese. And we were trying to discover whether or not there was a real problem. And I had a specialist with me and everything, and we flew around and went up into Nunavut a little bit. We saw lots of snow geese, and we saw areas where they had stripped the vegetation, but we didn't conclude that there was a real problem. And it looks like you didn't particularly notice any.
We didn't see any.
There you go. Because we predicted that based on the literature, it seems that there were huge numbers of snow geese, before the turn of the previous century, in the 19th, early 20th century. And I just think that their cyclic changes are immense. They don't, it's not like snowshoe hares, every few years. And length, it's probably every large, like half a century. But that's the way it is. And now, of course, all the other forces that are up there, the climate change, you mentioned that the ice was gone before it was expected. Geese are almost immaterial compared to all the rest that's going on.
Yeah.
Hearn definitely talked about the snow geese in his journals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of them were shot out. And of course, the other thing is the Ross's goose, which wasn't distinguished in those days. I mean, it was just snow geese. And
right.
they were produced when I was a kid, which was quite long ago. I remember the woolly mammoths. There was thought to be 2,000 of them.
Yeah, the dinosaurs were cool.
Yeah.
Okay, stop making fun of us old folks.
Right.
We'll take
I'm
it.
with you.
Oh,
All
gosh.
right.
Yes. All right. Well, once again, thank you, everybody.
Hey.
Nice to see y'all.
Right.
Have a good time birding. I'm leading a trip in Smooth Rock Falls on Valentine's Day. I'll let you know if I find those ptarmigans again.
Maybe we'll pop in.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll let you know when we're up there.
Yeah, do. Yeah.
Good.
Night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Good night, everyone.
Stop the recording.
Oh, yeah.